All right, welcome, movie men. Tonight, we are gathered here today to discuss the movie Snatch in our quest for a perfect movie. This was nominated by Callum. The last time we met, we've all watched it. We all have opinions. I assume we all have a decision on whether or not we believe it's perfect. But as always, let's pass the ball to Callum to make the case for any of us that might still be on the fence or might think that it's not perfect. Why did you nominate this one as a perfect movie? What makes it perfect to you?
For me, so this is a cultural movie for me as well. In the UK, this is a classic. And then there's with movies, there's always going to be like a nostalgia aspect that will maybe make you a little bit more biased if you have that nostalgia. For me, I do. I grew up watching this movie with my brothers, and re-quoting the lines, even to this day, even though me and my brothers haven't sat down and watched this movie in such a long time. But even if I try and extract myself from that nostalgia bias, I feel as though this movie just stands for itself. If we go down the criteria list, was I entertained? I think from the beginning, when those Jewish rabbis are walking in to the building and talking about the Virgin Mary, and you're thinking, what on earth am I watching here? And then it hits off, and then all the way throughout the rest of the movie, in my opinion, is just so fun and so entertaining. Did the movie do what it was meant to do? Some movies are very serious in nature. This is a Guy Ritchie movie. This is taking liberties. This is all about the dialogue. It's not too complex. It's not too. You don't need to get a notepad out to try and take notes. And it's just, it is what it is. And I don't think we should hold it to a standard that's not trying to hold itself to. So yeah, I think the movie fulfilled its purpose. I think it did what it was meant to do. It was meant to. And you know what? This is something that I'm interested to hear about you guys' opinion on, because it's very British gangster instead of American mafia type movie. It's also got the gypsy aspect to it, which there's a lot of gypsies in the UK, not so much over here. So I would like to hear your guys' opinion on that. So just think about it when you give me your responses and bear that in mind. Was I moved? This movie had me laughing all the way throughout it. It was so funny, and that to me is an emotion that it's an involuntary emotion. It just makes you feel that, it makes you feel humor, makes you laugh. So it did the movie touch me. Now, for this movie, what is its purpose? It makes you laugh. It's action. But that purpose, did it move me? Still had an effect. See, when Brad Pitt's mother, or was Brad Pitt's, when his mother dies in the caravan. I mean, even though this movie isn't so like trying to be serious and whatnot, when that scene happens, you're like, how's he going to react? You kind of like put yourself in Mickey's shoes, and you're like, oh, what's he going to do here? And you do feel a little bit like, it doesn't make you cry or anything like that. But as far as what this movie is trying to make you feel, I think it does its job. Did you have empathy for the characters? Put yourself in the see the anxiety that you're feeling when everything's not going off and they're turning each other against each other, and you're not sure which one that you feel more aligned with. Especially the scene where you've got the guys trying to rob the bookie, and they run in there and they've been trapped in the bookies, and then all it's needed is they're trying to open the door the wrong way. it's so dumb. But that I can maybe touch on that later. But like, yeah, so I felt as though the each character was displayed very well, so that you you could sort of like align yourself with each person within that story. Depending on which frame was there, you could put yourself in their shoes, and you could and you could feel how they were feeling. You could feel the anxiety about where is this diamond. You could feel the, oh no, my boxers dropped out. You could feel how Mickey was feeling. I think it done a good job at having all the characters kind of like displayed in a fair way, if that makes sense. Was I impressed? The dialogue in this movie, I mean, it's a Guy Ritchie movie. I think it's his second movie, isn't it? His first one was Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels. Brad Pitt saw Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, got in touch with Guy Ritchie and said, I want in on your next movie. And Guy Ritchie says, okay, let's do it. I've got an A-lister wanting to participate in some of my movies. Excellent. Guy Ritchie is such a perfectionist, though, when it comes to accents and the way that you can deliver, his actors can deliver the message that the character is supposed to deliver, that he said, Brad Pitt can't do a London accent. He can't do a gangster's accent. So what did they do? He wrote Snatch in 3 months. He rewrote it so that Brad Pitt could be in his movie, because it was important for him for Brad Pitt to be in the movie. So I just think the talent is on display of Guy Ritchie here, and all the acting abilities. For the A-listers in the movie, you've got Brad Pitt, and then you've got Del Toro. They're the A-listers. The other guys, although they go on to have good careers, aren't quite there yet with this movie. Still had great acting performances. The visual effects, Mickey's knockout with Gorgeous George, I thought that was like such an excellent scene. Boom, and then the music, golden brown. Oh, I thought that was such a good scene. I thought that it was simple enough where you didn't feel as though your brain was getting fried watching it, but it had all these different storylines where it's so rewatchable, because every time you rewatch it, you can enjoy it from another character's point of view. So all in all, I think the rewatchability of the movie, the dialogue of the movie, the acting, it kind of made you feel gross. Like, see, when you watched The Gypsies, you felt as though you wanted to shower after it. You know, like I thought they'd done the effects very well. I thought they'd done everything was perfect, which is why I have nominated this to be a perfect movie. Can I just like scanning the bottom half of our criteria there, but maybe I'll leave it at that, see what you guys say, and then if I have to justify my opinion even more, then I'll go to the other part of our criteria that we have. What say you, Drew?
Yeah, I was so this is my first time seeing it. And which I thought I must have started it a couple times, because the beginning was familiar, and then it was all new to me. But a couple things I wanted to hit on that you were defending is, well, first of all, as soon as it was over, I like leaned back and I was like, oh, this is one of the Guy Ritchie movies you have to rewatch. Like this, and it not in a bad way, but I was like, oh, this is super rewatchable. I need to rewatch this multiple times so that I can understand all the storylines that are going on. And so I think it was a good thing, except I didn't realize that, and it was my first time watching it. So I was, I don't know if you can put your mind back the first time you watched it. You're pretty lost, like not like just with the specifics of whose gangsters are who and who hired these guys. And I'm trying to keep all these Jewish men straight in my head. And then on top of that, I'm trying to understand what Mickey's saying, even though I know that it's supposed to be crazy and not understandable. And so I'm like still trying to appreciate it and pick up something from it. I don't want to say my problem with it, but something that I picked up on that I was like, I just don't think that I was, again, I'm sure this would change on rewatching, but it was very British film. It was like
I could tell it's like watching The Office, except the UK version. I'm like, oh, I can see how somebody thinks that's funny. That's just not my cup of tea, pun intended. Like like it's kind of like that where he would say things and for example, like I'm interested to hear what you say about the door scene, but like the door scene and like how exaggerated they made it. I was like, oh, I feel like this went on for like 45 seconds too long. And
Yeah,
then
it felt like an episode of Mr. Bean or something.
yeah,
Like or like the Monty Python skit.
right.
Like it had like a British flair to it.
A little bit of like slapstick comedy, which I can appreciate. It's just like it's come and gone in the United States.
Well, can I just,
Of course, please.
I'll quickly rebut that, because that actually happened. Like this movie Snatch is not just Guy Ritchie thinking everything up. It is based off of true stories of London gangsters, and that actually happened. So these guys caught in a robbery, and all they had to do was open the door the other way. So it's an ode to that.
Yeah,
which in my opinion makes it even better.
That does make it better. It's kind of like Pain and Gain, where you're like, people are this stupid, like, and it almost it has an entertainment factor to it.
I just wanted to put another plug in for that. I watched I think is the 20-year anniversary of Guy Ritchie, and in explaining, he said, I had so much material for Lock, Stock, and Barrel, I couldn't. I said the movie wrong, but he had so much extra material, and he just would listen to people talking in pubs about real life experiences and how dumb people were, that he put the rest of it into Snatch.
The last thing that I was gonna say about that, though, on my end, was something that I noticed like 3/4 of the way through is they did the evolution of Guy Ritchie's like storytelling and dialogue. It was really fun to see from 2000 to like one of my favorite movies, The Gentleman, where it was still very Guy Ritchie-esque, but it's like a lot of that repetitive, like it's Freddy effing Four Fingers. Yeah, where are we going? Freddy effing Four Fingers. And in that one scene, they say it like 8 or 9 times. Maybe it's a British thing, like maybe that's funny to British people, but to me, I was like, I know who you're talking about. You don't have to keep saying his name. I get it. But like, it's also a Guy Ritchie thing, because if you look at his other movies, like Double Bubble, like they like bounce funny little catchphrases off each other. The difference is he kind of stretched them maybe in this movie in 2000, and he's really cleaned it up, and he's already had his own lane, but I really feel like he's stretching his legs in his lane, which was fun for me to watch. Like, I enjoy Guy Ritchie movies. I enjoy everything about Guy Ritchie. I'm enjoying this movie, and I'm like, oh, but I can see how he's really polished his craft from this one to like The Gentleman. Anyways, I love the movie. I can't wait to watch it again, but I'll pass it on to somebody else.
I wanted to jump in a little bit. First things first is the good. First off, I loved it. Like Drew, is my first time watching it. A little bit hard to follow all the different storylines, so I will support Drew with that. But overall, loved it. The dialogue was fun, funny, witty. Loved it. Let's see. I'm looking at the list, because one of the criteria is it unique against peer movies? And right at the beginning, I thought it was going to be a heist movie. So I'm like, okay, the Ocean's movies, or what was the one with Mark Wahlberg? Italian Job. Is that Mark Wahlberg? Italian Job. So I was going to compare it to that, but I think, is the peer movies just Guy Ritchie? Like, I think Guy Ritchie is almost his own genre, right? Even though he kind of jumps different genres, but they're all like Guy Ritchie movies. So with that in mind, kind of to piggyback on what Drew was saying, I think that Guy Ritchie really really fine-tuned his craft over time. I don't think this was his best work. If you're comparing it to hit like peer movies, and we're comparing it to Guy Ritchie movies, I definitely think that some of his later movies were better. The reason being is, well, let me start off by saying it definitely paid off. For the first 3/4 of the movie, I was like, man, this is fallen short of a perfect movie. Still enjoying it, but perfect movie, I'm like, I don't think so. At the end, I was like, all right, payoff was awesome, loved it. But what I think it was lacking was I wasn't super emotionally attached to anybody except for Jason Statham and the gypsies. Like, I thought that the movie was about the gem and like who's gonna get the gem, and I'm like, I really don't care about that. I'm more concerned about, is Jason Statham gonna get murdered by that one guy? Like, I was more concerned about that than what I thought that the movie was trying to have me concerned about. I'm like, I really don't care about that. I'm more concerned with this. So right at the beginning, I thought that was a reason against it. I was like, I'm not emotionally involved with what they're wanting to have me, care about. But then it ended up being more about that anyway. So I'm kind of on the fence with that. But that was my initial thoughts.
Props
Alright,
to Guy Ritchie, you know? Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
I was-
Callum.
I was just
Respond to
gonna
that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it is almost as though it's like, and this is a type of Guy Ritchie thing, where it's multiple storylines combining into the common core of the movie, and why it all connects. So I can understand, and this is the thing is, see, if you did get it all in the one go. And it's not like abstract concepts, which is why it's difficult to keep a track of everything. It's the fast pacedness, it's the story, it's the multiple storylines, it's the multiple strong characters that makes it rewatchable. This movie is so rewatchable. So if it didn't have that, then it wouldn't be as rewatchable. But it does have that that part where it can be difficult to, oh, who's this guy again, and why is that guy related to this guy, and why is this guy concerned about, and maybe like you related more with the fighter and Jason Statham. The diamond stuff is just like another storyline for you to keep on the back of your mind, and then once it all connects at the end, and as you said at the end, the payoff was great. And I think that if the payoff wasn't great at the end, then it would have just been useless. But because of the payoff, it's just like, oh, work of art, great. So that's my little defense there.
All right.
Let me sorry, Bo. May I? Let me paint you a picture here really quickly. A young Daniel Brownie, beardless, short hair, high school, going over to a friend's house. We take our whoozy whatsits, our thingamabobs. Okay, we're having a good time. All right. My friend says, I have a movie for us to watch. Pops in Snatch. Now, you want to talk about an absolute mind bender in that state of mind. Not only sober, but in that state of mind, I thought I was losing my absolute noodle when I watched this movie because of how many storylines were happening. This movie holds a very special place in my heart because then when the whoozy whatsits and thingamabobs left and I was normal once again, I watched it again and I was still equally as confused. And it was beautiful. It was just beautiful. I love Guy Ritchie, all of Guy Ritchie's stuff. To back up what you said, Callum, about how quick he's quick. You got to pay attention to the word, to these actors and how quickly they're bantering back and forth. It's so sharp with what he says and the dialogue and the way it moves. I love it, man. So, anyways. Holds a special place in my heart. That was my very first interaction with Guy Ritchie. Was in that moment, and that's when I knew I loved him.
Listen, I just have one question for you, Brownie. Thingamabobs, you've got 20. But who cares?
Who cares? No big deal.
All right. Let me take a swing. So what Drew and Zane mentioned that might be considered dings to this movie, I find fault with them, but I don't think that it detracts from the perfection of the movie for the reasons that Callum said. Like if it's intentional and I'm bothered by it. So for example, the British sayings that I've never understood. It's like in British culture, or I should say like European culture, it seems like there are like these sayings that are like slam dunks in that culture that don't really land as an American, like F all, like whatever that saying is, all whatever they say, whenever they say that, I'm like, it's always like this mic drop moment in the movie. And I'm like, that means nothing to me. Like Americans don't say that. That like, and then like, are you going to take a piss? It's like, that means nothing to me as an American. And yet it's always like this mic drop moment in these British movies. And I'm like, am I supposed to care about that saying? Like they try to make it like John McClane being like, yippee-ki-yay, mother. Like that's a cool American, like everybody's on board with that. Like that is a mic drop moment, you know? But with these British sayings, I'm just like, hey, Guy Ritchie, it's not cool to everybody else in the world. Like, I know you're in like this little British bubble. It's not cool. Like I feel nothing when the characters say that. So that's one problem I have. But again, if it's a British movie about British gangsters, like I can't find fault with that because it's the cultural context of the movie. It just doesn't land for me personally. But then and obviously I love the movie as well. This is my first time watching it all the way through. I'm pretty sure I've started it a couple times and just fallen asleep because, as you guys know, that's a problem I have. It's the bane of my existence, falling asleep during movies. But it's not because it was boring or because of the pacing or because I wasn't interested in it. It's just you get lost until it ties itself together at the end, which when I finally finished it, I was like, that's awesome. That was like, and okay. And so again, comparing it to like The Gentleman, same director, just a couple decades later, also awesome, as we've already discussed. I felt the same way. I remember in the theaters being like, there's so many characters and so many different storylines going on right now, but it's so fun to watch still. And then at the end, it ties it together. And I'm like, okay, I missed a few things, but I get the general idea. I need to watch this again because there's so, and then you watch it again, you start picking up on things. And I imagine that Snatch is going to be very similar when I rewatch it because now I know what to look for and I kind of know what to anticipate. And so I like that. I'm with Drew. That's not a ding on the movie that I didn't get it the first time because Guy Ritchie is so brilliant at his craft that he keeps you entertained as he's confusing you, which is great. Like that's a cool like storytelling skill that he has. And he does it well because most of the time, if you're lost in a movie, you get bored. But somehow he keeps it's the witty dialogue, it's the quick, the fast-paced scene changes. Like he cuts scenes really quick. Like what made me laugh was when the Jewish guy was like, "What? You're in London? Pack your toothbrush." Pops the pill, takes the thing. You see the airplane, and he's in the guy's office in less than 10 seconds after he said he's going to London. Like Guy Ritchie doesn't waste any time, and he makes it fun and funny and interactive, and like paces it well so that you aren't bored. And I love that about his movies. Brad Pitt. I talk about these actors every now and then, like Denzel Washington, just people who have this screen presence where you're just like hanging on every word and every action, every like mannerism that they have. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but when they're in like the gypsy caravan or whatever, and two characters are talking and it's not even Mickey, but a dog like jumps up at Mickey and he like jumps and then he like he like flexes on the dog, and the scene's not even about Brad Pitt. Like it's other characters, it's like Jason Statham or somebody talking. But I was just so transfixed on Brad Pitt. I'm just like, I love watching him. He's so fun and funny as an actor. Like he's just a pleasure to like watch on screen. That's why he's an A-list superstar. So I love Brad Pitt. That the cinematography of when his mother was being burned and you just see, and like you see the flames in his eyes. Oh, it's so beautiful. That was a beautiful shot. I almost wanted to pause the movie just to like marinate in that like scenery for just a little bit longer, because first of all, Brad Pitt's a beautiful man, but also like with the ash and the darkness and the night and the flames in his eyes and the flickering of the fire lighting his face, it was just a beautiful shot. So hats off to Guy Ritchie there. I'm gonna just ding the movie a couple times, nitpicks, and then I'll pass the ball to Chase or Justin, whoever wants to talk. I thought the biggest problem with the movie for me was the inconsistency of characters, in my opinion. The main bad guy, what was the name? Brick something or other. The dude with the yellow teeth, the like, but you know, the guy with the fighting dogs, the bad guy.
Bricktop.
Yeah, Bricktop, is that his name?
Bricktop. That's a slang word for redhead. Bricktop.
Gotcha. Bricktop, got it.
Which obviously was lost on you because you're American and uncultured.
Guilty as charged. But here's the thing. I felt like his character was too inconsistent for me to like give this movie a gold star, because he's fighting dogs and he's obviously just a mean cuss of a person. He's mean, he's nasty. And then, you know, he's trying to fix fights and Jason Statham owes him, you know, the whole story plays out, but he's built up to be like this really mean, nasty, cutthroat character. But he keeps offering mercy when I feel like a character like him wouldn't. And I get that it's like necessary for the story to move forward. But for example, you know, the first time that Mickey like knocks the guy out with one punch when he was supposed to take a dive in the 4th round, I'm like, I don't think Bricktop would give Jason Statham's character another chance after that. I feel like he'd be cutting off fingers and like shooing him away, if not killing him. Same with you know, the guys, you know, robbing the bookie that got locked in the room or whatever. I'm like, once he caught them and he has all their thugs and he puts them in the body bag, I don't think he's keeping them alive. I don't think he's believing them when they say they know where the diamond is. Maybe, but I was just like, I feel like he offered too much mercy when the story set him up to be like this really ruthless, nasty killer. He just offered too much mercy. The nastiest thing that he did in the entire movie was kill Mickey's mom. And you didn't even see him specifically do that. You just showed up and the place was on fire. And so I feel like they did that character a little bit of a disservice by not showing how like merciless he was with like by actually burning Mickey's mom in the caravan, like letting us see him do that. And then also offering characters mercy that I feel like from his perspective didn't deserve any mercy. And so I just felt like there was a little bit of inconsistency with the characters. And then just one note also that I am kind of bothered by Guy. It almost feels sloppy if he keeps doing the same thing over and over in all of these movies, which is like Drew already mentioned. He repeats words a lot. He's like, he was a boy, a good boy, a very good boy. I had a boy. Like it's just like why? Like, you know what I mean? It's just like, why? I get that's your style, and maybe I should just be okay with it because it's your style. But he really like drills in and repeats words a lot, which I noticed, but it doesn't really bother me. All right, that's all I'll say.
Can I just give one quick? So with Bricktop, little what could have been, Sean Connery was offered to play Bricktop, and he went to go and watch Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. There was like a private screening for him to kind of like to make a decision, because he didn't really know much about Guy Ritchie. That obviously Guy Ritchie was new. And Sean Connery watched Lock, Stock, leaned over and said, "This is a very good movie, but you can't afford me." So you could tell just by like the style of it that it was, you know, in fact, the fighting scene in Snatch, they couldn't afford a bunch of extras to fill the room. So with one camera angle, they were showing it with all the extras, and then the camera angle switched and all the extras had to run around to the other side of them. And so it was the same extras on both sides. They couldn't, you know. But anyway, on Bricktop, I thought, so there was the people that Bricktop, the people that were scared to death of this guy Bricktop. But then there were guys that Bricktop had to answer to. You remember? There was the two gangsters that Bricktop had to answer to, and those two guys had put money on the fight, and Bricktop was relying on Jason Statham's character for the fighter. So I don't think it was just mercy for mercy's sake. I think it was mercy for the sake of selfish reasons, because although he was a scary character, there were scarier characters that he had to answer to. And one thing that I thought was pretty ruthless that he'd done, and just the dialogue of him, the whole thing with the pigs. The dogs don't eat, we give to the pigs. And trust me, when the pigs get you, their teeth go through bones like butter. It's just like, so you just feel, brush your teeth, man. You could just like, you could feel every. I thought his character, although Sean Connery never got it, I thought Bricktop was pretty good.
You could
Sorry.
almost smell his breath as he's talking. Like it was
Yeah.
very visceral.
How many packs of cigarettes he smokes a day and all of that. But there was one part after Mickey had dropped one of the boxers and he's walking away and his face is tripping him. And then this one guy comes out and says, Brigtop, I thought he was supposed to, he kind of like tries to pull him up about it. And he just, trust me, son, if you come across me one more time up, it's going to be your other nut that gets it. And he cuts off one of his testicles. The guy's like standing there with these, that's ruthless. So he was ruthless with the people that were fearful of him, but he wasn't ruthless with the people that were over him. And then it was kind of like, I felt as though watching the movie that for selfish reasons, he was given a bit of grace. I don't think it was just for
he offered mercy when there was something in it for him, when he could still find value in either Jason Statham setting up another fight that he could make the money back, or the three robbers that might know where the diamond is, and so he'd keep them alive for that.
And it was he wanted them to think that it was just him being merciful. But in reality, it was him being selfish. It was for selfish reasons. But he wanted to have them in his pocket, so he made them think that they owed him their life. You know what I mean? And they did. They did think that. They did think that. So that's just a little bit of defense of Bricktop, and almost like how reserved he was, and how like you didn't know much about his character and all of that. And I think that might have been deliberate because it's almost the mystery of the guy. It's the boss man. When the boss man walks in, you don't see him too much, but when he walks in, you try and square yourself up and make sure you're on your best behavior, and you don't want to say anything dumb because it's the boss man, and you never see the boss man. And I think because of his, because you didn't see a lot of him, that kind of carried on in his presence.
Justin, I want to hear your thoughts. What did you think of the movie?
Oh, you don't want any of this smoke. So there is a common theme about this. Also, first-time watcher, and not a huge fan of Guy Ritchie. So putting that disclaimer out. Again, not everybody's cup of tea. This movie is definitely not girlfriend. Bring the girlfriend to this movie. This is a guy movie, Guy Ritchie movie, but a guy movie in all the sense. And the common theme, if you watch this the first time, is I am lost. The first 30 minutes of this movie, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be painful. This is going to be really painful. And no offense, maybe Sean Connery, would have made it a perfect movie, but Sean Connery in movies doesn't make him perfect, apparently. So maybe dodge that bullet, Callum. All right. That being said, there was, I think it was when you had, is it Tyrone and the two bumbling idiots with the dog? When they started messing up royally with the shotgun that the girl takes from him and starts shooting them back, I was like, I don't care where this is. You know what? I'm just gonna, I'm not. I don't know character names. I love the fact that nobody could understand Brad Pitt. So like, British always get a bad rap. Like we tease Callum for not understanding what he's saying, but they intentionally made Brad Pitt unintelligible even to British people, and they're like, what? And they made it a running joke. Once I stopped trying to follow the plot lines, I really enjoyed the movie, and then the payoff at the end was so brilliant. I loved the fact that they threw the milk carton or whatever that was, and then somebody crashed, and you don't think about it, and then you see the other side of that scene, and they're all related. Was brilliant storytelling in the end. It immediately made me say, I need to watch this again. And probably when you watch it a second time, you need to watch it a third and fourth. So definitely the rewatchable factor.
Justin, really quick.
Yeah.
So I like had to pause and rewind because I was like, do I need to know what he's saying? Like, is it important to the story? And I turned on the subtitles and it gave me a few sentences, but it literally said inaudible mumbling.
Unintelligible gibberish or something like that.
Unintelligible. And I wonder if that was like the script, because he's like, hey, just mumble something. And
It was.
in it. And what is that accent called, Callum? Pikey?
Yeah, he's a
It's not
gypsy.
English. It's not Irish. It's just pikey.
Yeah. So they're gypsies.
Quote,
Uh,
re-quotable.
I think I was just gonna say Callum just proved the requotability of this movie by answering your question. So brilliant. Actually, matter of fact, Callum has quoted this movie quite a few times in answer to one of our questions. So this movie definitely checks that box.
Even though it's not requotable to us, we've only seen it once for most of us. So
But I recognize all the quotes that he said because they are hard hitters. you know?
Anytime anyone asks me, do you like dogs? I'm always like, do you like dogs? Anytime. And they're always like, maybe because they've not watched Snatch, they're always like, oh. And I'm like, and then
Callum,
sorry.
I'm sorry. I do that to my wife all the time, and she still doesn't get it. So, dags. You like dags?
Or else, another thing I'll say often is, I'll fight you for it. I'll fight you for it. That's what Brad Pitt is saying. Some of the quotes, I just want to. Sorry, I lost track of who was. But anyway, see when they're trying to convince Tyrone is the getaway driver, I love that scene. And the guy's like, who's this? Tyrone. Or when he's moving slow and he's kind of like fumbling and his leather jacket is squeaking and I thought you said he was a getaway driver. He is. What can he get away from? Because he's just so slow and sluggish. Just
I will say that is the British humor that Drew was talking about. But for me, that scene in particular definitely worked. Like when we say British humor, it's not a knock on it. It's just a very like specific type of kind of slapsticky, silly humor. Whereas I feel like American humor is a lot more like sarcastic and witty. Whereas British humor is like you lean into like the stupidity of a situation. It was really funny though. Like when that scene you just described, Callum, literally had me laughing out loud. It was funny.
Or the dog in the car, the same car swallows that thing and it's just a more annoying dog because he has that squeaker.
And that dog never allowed in a movie set again. Because see all the times that dog attacked the black guy. I can't remember which one his name is, but that was genuine. That actually happened. That was unscripted, and that was actually happened. When the black guy was in, what's his name? Saul. When Saul was in the bank or the bookies trying to rob it, and he's got his shotgun through, and he hits his shotgun, and the shotgun recoils and hits him in the nuts, and he's crawling. That was genuine. That actually happened. So there's some things in this movie that we think is just like, okay, is he going a little bit far here with the slapstick humor? That was actually it just happened. And you know how when some things happen, when some things that are unbelievable happen, oftentimes people will say, oh, you couldn't even script that, you couldn't even write it. And that's what Guy Ritchie had happen in this movie multiple times, and he just left it in. So can you imagine being on the set of this movie? Can you imagine being with these guys? And so you've got Vinnie Jones. Vinnie Jones, do you know who Vinnie Jones is? He's the guy, Bullet Tooth Tony. And this is a Magnum, And your gun says, so Bullet, he was a professional footballer. He's been in prison multiple times. But the first day of filming for his scene, where he brings the boy, the Scottish guy, and he puts his head in the window, and he rolls up the window, and he starts driving. So originally, Vinnie Jones wasn't in that scene because he got in a fight the night before, and he was in prison. He had to call up Guy Ritchie and say, I was in a fight, I'm in prison, I'm in prison. So he couldn't be in the movie where he was actually. So you've got Jason Statham, who's got a dodgy background. You've got Vinnie Jones, who's got a dodgy background. He's got such a good eye for talent to take people who are just so raw and develop them into these superstars. You've got Jason Statham's right-hand man, the guy Tommy. I don't know if you recognized him from some of the other movies, but he was trying to be an extra in Snatch. And Guy Ritchie popped his head out and he says, "Are you coming up next for the audition?" And he's like, "Oh no, I'm not for that part. I'm just." He says, "Come on and say a few lines." And he already knew at that point. He says, "I already knew that he was going to be having the main part in this movie." So just stuff like that. I feel as though, and then oftentimes you guys have said that it's not Guy Ritchie's best movie, which again, just because it's not his best movie doesn't mean that this one doesn't qualify for perfection in my view. But this movie was essential in my view for Guy Ritchie to become who The Gentleman wouldn't happen without Snatch. So I love it. That's my view. Phil, have we not heard from Chase? Chase, have we heard from you? I want to hear from Chase. Chase, back me up here.
Did Justin finish his thought though? We kind of.
It doesn't matter. Justin doesn't think it's a perfect movie,
right.
so Justin can stay
Look at you,
quiet.
Justin.
Justin never thought it was going to be a perfect movie because he's still holding it against me from the from the first time.
I never said it wasn't a perfect movie either, though, Callum, and you didn't allow me to finish. But you can have your assumptions.
On you go.
You know what happens when you assume things, right? Go ahead, Chase.
All right. So, yeah, I think this movie did it was such a Guy Ritchie movie. It had the witty dialogue. It had the I think Guy Ritchie is probably one of the best storytellers in cinema ever. The way he's able to move a story along and weave stories together is masterful. As who mentioned the New York Jewish guy taking a pill, getting on a plane, and then 5 seconds later he's there. Guy Ritchie is not a guy to like belabor any point if it adds nothing to the story. He's able to go, shot to shot to shot. And and I think we've talked about different movies where like lingering is really powerful and effective and all of this. But I think the stories that Guy Ritchie tells are not ones where you linger and belay a shot unnecessarily. I think when he lingers on a shot like the campers burning, he could have shortened that down, but he didn't. He let you sit there and watch that fire going so that you could kind of have the impact of Brad Pitt's character, like getting emotional and kind of filling with rage, whatever. He's very careful in making sure that any time there's a lingering effect, it has purpose and it has way more impact than, right? Like you could see a different director taking the Jewish guy getting on the plane and then showing him on the plane having some dialogue that might move the story forward a little bit or might add some color, context, whatever. But he doesn't do that. He goes, nope, he's going to New York. Now he's in London. Boom. 5 seconds, we're there. And he's just so great at being able to tell stories that way. For me, it was, I kind of had some of the same struggles where as it's going through, I'm like, what does any of this have to do together? What do the guys have to do with Brad Pitt's character, which has to do with, you figure out how Jason Statham's character ties in with Brad Pitt pretty quick. But trying to like weave it all together. And again, that's the payoff at the end. But it took me a little bit to just kind of settle in and go, I'm just here for the journey. Tell me a story. And at the end, you'll Sanderson avalanche it for me and give me just all the juicy detail and that payoff. All the juicy payoff at the end. So incredibly witty commentary, like dialogue. Brad Pitt's character was hilarious. The fact Stacy was like, I want you to turn on subtitles. I'm like, I kind of don't want to. I kind of want to just struggle with his mumbly gypsy talk and not really understanding what he's saying. And even his brothers, when they would go off and they're like, my mom, what? My mom, my mom, my mom, my mom, my mom. And you're like, oh, okay. Right. And it took like 5 of them saying that it was their mom. It just like, it had this like tickle inside of me of the wittiness of even Londoners don't understand what a gypsy is saying. So I thought it was delightful. I also probably, besides Callum, probably know second most of like gypsy culture, which is really interesting. And like, I think Callum probably knows way more than I do. But Stacy's learned about it. We've watched shows about it. Like, it's such a unique part of like England. So I really liked it. The fact that he was like a one-punch knockout guy tickled other parts of my brain. So yeah, I have a lot to say, like lot of praise. From a negative standpoint, I could tell that it was like a 2000s movie. And again, even with Guy Ritchie, you can tell he's sharpening his blade. So it's probably not the best work that he's done. He's still trying to figure out how to tell stories really effectively. He's still trying to figure out like the best way to shoot cinematography wise. He did something that I personally don't like, where he did those like really deep or high shots where it kind of distorts the people's face. That happened several times, and it was just a trope in the like 90s and 2000s where you had a lot of that. It's something I particularly don't like. I think he was just playing in the time of when he was making movies and what was kind of like in vogue at that time. But again, I think it just dates the movie when you're watching it. It's not going to be necessarily timeless where you can sit down and be like, oh, this is a masterpiece. You're going to turn it on. You're going to go, this is a 2000s movie. Once you see kind of those different high-low shots. So I won't say like it's flawless, but I have way more praise than I do not praise to sing for this movie.
Callum, rebut.
Yeah, I mean, if like there's going to be little nitpicky things that we can do, but that's something in the criteria that we've kind of said from the beginning, is that we're not going to get lost in the nitpicky details. I first of all want to share a story with you guys. So I dated a gypsy. When I was, how old was I? I think I might have been 15 or something like that, and I started dating this gypsy girl. And I went to meet her family, and I went to a gypsy camp to meet her family, and I got into a fight with her older brother at the gypsy camp. And the rest of the gypsies, there was, or not the rest, it's not as if the full camp came out, but the gypsies that were there. Now, gypsies are a scary people. They get up and they move. They're the kind of people that will come around, knock on, they'll come around at night, take the tiles off of your roof, come around the next day, knock on your door, say, I see you've got some issues with your roof there. I've got a company, will come by and fix it for you, no problem. So that's what they're known to do that. They don't pay any taxes or anything like that, but they get a lot of protections from the government. And they just, whenever a lot of crime, in fact, my uncle Drew has a place of business, and across the street from him is a gypsy camp. He took a video of these gypsies going in with a white van, ramming through a gate, killing out with a couple of machetes and going ham on each other with a couple of machetes. Uncle Drew saw that, sent it to me not too long, like last year, maybe 2 years ago. Just a wild type of people. Anyway, 15 years old, fighting this new girlfriend's older brother. At the end of the fight, both of us are bloody and dirty and all of that kind of stuff. And then after all of that, the gypsies loved me. They treated me like one of their own, and they allowed me to date one of theirs, I suppose. And the gypsies have amazing boxing camps, and that's where I learned a lot of my boxing when I was doing boxing back home. So I've got like this connection to gypsies as well. Brad Pitt does a phenomenal job, and one of the amazing things about this movie is that you look at Brad Pitt and the rest of the gypsy community and you think that they're just like the pawns of the story, and it turns out that they're the masterminds behind everything, you know, and they're so loyal to each other. But that scene where the gunshots go off and you've got Tommy and you've got Turkish, Jason Statham's character, they're both going like this, and you've got Brad Pitt doesn't even blink. He just stands and watches because he knows exactly how things are going to play out. He's the mastermind behind it. I thought, yeah, so it'll have its little quirks. You get the character of Guy Ritchie throughout it. Another little added detail: who's Guy Ritchie married to at this time, or who was he dating at this time? Madonna. Bullet Tooth Tony, when he's getting when he at the scene where he gets shot a bunch of times, the song in the background is a Madonna song, and then when he's got the guy's head in the window years later in the movie and he's going down the street, he turns on the radio, it's the Madonna song. Oh, I love this song, is what he says. And it's like a girly little Madonna song. He's got a guy's head in the window and he's driving down, the guy, slow down, Tony, slow down, Tony. It was beautiful in my view. I thought it was wonderful. There's also see the minor characters. Do you remember the lady that worked at the bookies? Minor character. She's like, do you know whose bookie shop this is? Yeah, we do know whose bookie shop this is. Bricktop's bookie shop. And then she's standing there unfazed with a gun in her face. Minor character, minor detail. Appreciate it. All bets are off. Because the fight's thrown. She unfazed. Now, that is also accurate when you have little characters like that who works at a front desk of a bookies. I know people back home who are dodgy characters, who own pubs and clubs. I remember getting taken to one of these pubs by my uncle and says, you have any problems, you speak to this lady behind the bar. And then come to find out she's got, now bear in mind, this is very illegal in Scotland. We might have to bleep this out. I don't want to incriminate my family, but the lady behind the bar in Scotland has a shotgun. Callum, any problems in Glasgow, you come here. So this girl standing at the bookie shop, unfazed with a shotgun pointed at her, works for one of the baddest gangsters in London. Appreciate it. All bits are off. Her acting was great. Her character was great. Minor detail, minor character. Guy Ritchie could have said, we'll just get anyone for that role. But even the small characters, whether it's Tyrone or whether it's the girl working behind the bookie shop, he could have overlooked it, but he didn't. He's got such an eye for talent, and I thought this movie just displayed Guy Ritchie's talent in storytelling, displayed his talent. Yeah, sure, he probably didn't need to go through such abstract storylines to begin with, but I think he was almost showing off. In fact, he said that with Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, his first one, he says that he felt under pressure, the pressure of trying to, knock it out the park with his movie. He says that with Snatch, he felt as though he's earned his stripes and he could just display his talent that he's got for movie making and storytelling. And I thought Snatch done a really good job at presenting that.
This really, from your perspective, I thought it was more hyperbole and fanciful, but to me, it sounds like it was a lot more realistic. Like if we went to London in 2000 or whatever and decide like this is what we would actually see. And so from Americans' point of view, it seems fanciful, but to you, it's like authentic.
I mean, there's definitely like Guy Ritchie's little spice on it, where he kind of like takes out some liberties. But like, for example, in this conversation, we've said, maybe that scene where these guys are stuck and it's kind of slapstick and it's kind of like maybe that went on too long. And I was like, well, that actually happened. Guy Ritchie didn't just make that up. He based that off of something that actually happened with the London gangsters, So yeah, like this this is stuff that is comedy to watch, but sometimes real life is just comedy gold.
Can I just speak to what one of Chase's criticisms? Because you just said part of perfection is we're not going to get nitpicky about stuff that doesn't really matter to the movie. That was your response to Chase. I think I have a better response, and that is part of the perfection of a movie is how well it did within its time, not necessarily how timeless it is in terms of like effects, technology, look. Like a great example is Fight Club. You watch Fight Club and it's got that weird green yellowish filter throughout the whole movie. It's got the like weird electronic music from the early 2000s. Like it is a movie from 1999. The style, the clothes, the music, the filters, the cinematography, all of it is like screams 1999. It's like it's got the same feel as The Matrix. It's got the like it's part of that era. But we still watch it today and we're like, oh, it's a perfect movie. Because like the story, the actors, the cinematography, the everything that makes a movie great, and then it's like, oh, but he had bleached tips. Who cares? You know what I mean? That's how I feel towards stuff like low camera angles, like the way that movies were filmed in a certain era. Did it tell a good story? Did the actors do their job? You know what I mean? Are all the like benchmarks of perfection there? Which leads us to the final vote. So we'll each get, let's say, like 1 to 2 minutes, just final thoughts, and then we'll cast a vote as to whether or not we believe it is perfect. After which, of course, we'll pass it to Zane. But I'll start it off. I just need one more thing explained, Callum, and no, you know what? I'll explain it myself because I was just thinking I came to this discussion thinking that I would vote no, that it's not a perfect movie. Because as much as I loved it and as much fun as I had with it, especially the ending made me rethink, because the whole movie I'm like, nah, like this is good, but I don't think it's perfect. And then the ending, I was like, hold on. And so that like I was just like kind of grappling with it. And I still felt walking into this conversation that the characters were inconsistent and it was a little bit unrealistic. Like this is a movie based in reality, especially after what you just said, Callum, and what Justin just notated. This is a movie that is based in reality, meaning there's no magic, there's no, force with Star Wars. There's no, like, it is based in reality. There's guns, there's blood, people die, it's bookies, like it's based in reality, right? And so, when Brad Pitt gets punched and he like flies through the air, he's like 8 feet in the air, and I'm like, that's not very realistic. And so I kind of dinged it. But you've already answered the question about like characters being inconsistent. I think that's been resolved. Because as we talked through it, I think that they were consistent. The bad guys were consistent. But even the unrealistic part of him getting uppercut and he's like 8 feet in the air, like parallel with the ground, just like flying through the air. I'm like, that's not how boxing works. But then wasn't that correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I've only seen it once. Wasn't that the same scene when he lands, his spirit goes underwater? That was the part, right? And so as I was thinking through this just now, as I'm like, how am I going to vote if I haven't resolved this? I think the fact that, and maybe Guy Ritchie didn't even do this on purpose, but just analyzing it, that was unrealistic how high he was in the air, but then he hits the ground and he falls underwater. So the whole scene almost seems surreal, like you're in Mickey's head. It's not actually literally what's going on. It's almost like a metaphor of how Mickey feels in that moment. He feels like he just got lifted up. And he's up because then you follow him underwater where and again, the cinematography, the artistic liberties. I mean, it's just, that scene was awesome. And so I think I've resolved all my concerns with this movie. And Callum, you've done a great job at like rebutting and selling and explaining and like navigating us through the nuances. So I hate to say it because I feel like I've voted way too many times yes to these perfect movies. But I'm not just going to vote no to be, a stubborn, hard-nosed critic. If you've convinced me, you've convinced me. And I think you have. So I vote yes for perfection.
Drew, I know you've raised your hand. Did you raise your hand to vote or just to comment on something Bo did?
Okay. No, I was just going to go next just because my reaction was similar to Bo, where I came in. Oh, go ahead. Did you have something to?
Just before, I just want to set a standard for everybody where if you were confused throughout, but at the end you were like, oh my goodness, that was amazing, I need to rewatch this, then can you really say it's not perfect if you've not given it that second chance? You know, if you watched it the first time and you thought, I need to rewatch this, watched it a second time and then said, you know what, nah, I don't think it's perfect, fair enough. But if you watched it today, if you watched it today and then you thought at the end, I need to rewatch this, please rewatch it before you disparage this movie into saying it's not perfect. Drew, take it away, my friend.
I think I need to rewatch it. No, but here's the thing: is I walked into this and I was like, I think like a 9 out of 10, or even like an 8.5 out of 10. Like there's some perfect movies that probably fall into the 8 out of 10 category just because of all of the other things that it has going for it. And I felt like this one,
Like First Night.
What?
Like First Night.
Yeah. But like I think this one fell like just 1/10 of a point underneath perfection for me walking into it. And I'm like, I'm here to be convinced though, because I know I enjoyed it, and I know that my criticisms, they don't hold much water because I've only seen it once and because I'm not British. And so I came into this wanting to be convinced because I was teetering. And similar to Bo, I felt like you answered all of my questions, and with you re-quoting the movie, I'm convinced. And so I too am gonna do a perfect movie.
No notes. I think it's a perfect movie.
So I think I stand by my analysis. There was so much good, so witty, so much nuance, such great storytelling. Right? I mean, as Guy Ritchie is learning and perfecting his craft, this is just an early work of that perfection as he continued to move out. And my criticisms, right? It's not necessarily that I was criticizing to say, this is pulling me down. It was saying, hey, I do realize that while I vote perfect movie, it did have some flaws, but those are overcome because it's such a gosh dang great movie, and it tickled so many different parts of me and my mind, and just that storytelling ability was masterful. So yes, for me.
Justin, what say ye?
Ugh. Boy, coming in, it was definitely not a perfect movie. And just like that of Bo and Drew, and a lot of coaxing from Callum, and because I don't turn my back on my friends when Sean Connery is on the board, I just wanted to point out a few things. I don't like King Arthur. Okay, Guy Ritchie King Arthur movie sucks. Okay, don't like it. I do like Guy Ritchie in Sherlock Holmes, right? I don't like a lot of Guy Ritchie's things. I told you that. Just the fact that by the last 20 minutes of Snatch put everything into place, even on a first watch when was so confused, everybody's reaction so far has been, I need to rewatch this movie. And for those reasons, this is a perfect movie.
Really quick, I just wanted to you're so stoked that Justin, we thought we lost you, Justin, on another one. But what was I about to say? Shoot. Hold. Oh,
you raised your hand when Justin was saying that he tied it in all at the end
Oh,
on the
that's it.
first.
Thank you. I think a big turning point for me to know that this is a perfect movie is if we threw this on the perfect movie list, and if it was on and I was like, "Oh, have you seen Snatch?" And if somebody that I love or care about is like, "No, I haven't seen Snatch," I'd be like, "You've got to watch it. You've got to watch Snatch." Or if like
I gotta say, I gotta put that was the one comment that I missed on mine. Is like Jimmy hasn't seen this. Jimmy has to watch this. I'll watch it with him.
Yeah,
it was a must.
Or even just like saying, "Oh, you haven't seen Snatch, dude? Go home tonight and watch Snatch." I'm not gonna be. It's no offense, Chase, but like, it's like Peanut Butter Falcon. If someone's like, "I haven't seen Peanut Butter Falcon," I'm not gonna be like, "Go home and watch Peanut Butter Falcon tonight." It kind of has like a niche mood that you need to be in, you know, like but Snatch, I feel like really hits that home. And so that was the last thing I wanted to say.
All right, let's go to Zane. Cast your vote, and then let's hear the reveal and any context that you'd like to add with the movie that you will choose as a nomination for perfection. Just in terms of the lens you want us to view it in, the context, anything you want to add in terms of that will help us enjoy the movie or help us see it the way that you see it. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, Drew just saw your comment. Drew said, to be fair, I don't recommend watching Talk to Me to anyone. That's funny. Yeah, so just kind of same thing. I came in leaning on the side of no. For sure rewatchable, finished it and knew that I needed to rewatch it right away. And yeah, not much needs to be said. I'm voting yes. Okay, so
sorry, just before Zane shoots off there, can I just say that I was convinced throughout this whole conversation that Brownie and I were the only ones who were going to say it was perfect. So I'm really glad that you guys have given this a chance. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And I am confident that I have just introduced. Some of you says it was your first time watching it. I'm confident I've just introduced you to one of the most rewatchable movies ever made. Is Snatch, in my opinion. So thank you, gentlemen. That was a pleasure, and I loved talking about it. So Zane, over to you for the next one, mate.
Love it. Yeah. All right. Next movie that I am choosing. I do want to provide some context. I had never seen this movie before. I watched it just probably 6 months ago. I completely raw dogged it. Had no idea. Just jumped right in. I only knew the name of the movie. And as soon as I got done watching it, I looked at Bailey and I was like, we need to watch this again. And she said the same thing. And we were just like, holy crap, that was awesome. What an experience. There were so many things that I feel like I missed that I wanted to go back and re-watch and re-see. And the reason I bring it as a nomination for a perfect movie is because I wanted to watch it with the lens of it being a perfect movie. I want you guys to nitpick it. I want to see if there are things wrong with it because I watched it just for enjoyment and loved it. And here we are. So that movie is The Prestige. I wish the recording would have all of your guys' reactions because it's just me standing there awkwardly.
Dude, you raw dog Prestige. Good for you, man. That's a great movie to not know anything about when you watch it.
Yeah, it was a blast.
I think this, other than my own, I think this is the first one I've actually seen.
Justin, you need to get out more. For a moviesman, you're a little lacking. That's awesome, Zane. All right, cool. So The Prestige. We will reconvene 2 weeks from now. So we've got 14 days to watch The Prestige with this critical lens as to whether or not it's perfect. And if you guys don't have anything else to add, let's go ahead and wrap here. Thanks for joining tonight, boys. It was super fun. Congratulations, Callum. Awesome. Like, I just want to also just say you were so good at shucking and jiving and like responding and rebuttaling in convincing ways. Like, that was awesome. And I love that this group is convincible. That's what's all, like, none of us come into these conversations with a predetermined, like, vote. We are here to discuss, to analyze, to pick apart, to peel back layers, to be convinced, to do convincing. It was awesome. Drew, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, that's just another testament to it being a perfect movie. If you can critique it, but it is solidly defensible, the way that Callum portrayed it, then one more notch on the perfection checklist.
Yeah. Awesome job tonight, guys. Thanks for joining. Have a good night.
Love you, boys.